welcome back. So now that you've seen what the site is going to look like, why don't we move on to actually creating our website? So hopefully you've stuck along for this long, and congratulations if you have just finished the previous website. It is a great step forward, and just so you know, most people would have stopped by there, but your perseverance clearly shows that you love web development. So you can continue on and get a career or make WordPress websites or do whatever you want. Now let's get on to the actual video. So the first thing you'll notice is this does not say localhost anymore. It says this URL. And I'm actually trying something new with this course. Every single website that we make, I'm going to be hosting it on my website. So all you have to do is visit this URL, ignore the WP-admin, visit this URL, and if the site introduction wasn't enough, you can go ahead and visit this URL. So I already covered this in the video in the introduction section about, where you can visit websites, but if you haven't already seen that, you can visit the website from here. Alright, so let's get into the video. So what are we going to be covering today? And we are going to be covering plugins. And I know it is a WordPress integral feature, but we haven't covered it until now. And it is the reason that WordPress is one of the most commonly used CMSs in the world. So what are plugins? Now, plugins are basically as if Chrome extensions. So if you use Google Chrome or Microsoft Firefox, most likely you can have extensions for your browser. You can see I have a lot of extensions up here, but it works in the same way in that someone creates an add-on to WordPress that you can use. So there are countless plugins out there. There's caching, there's e-commerce, there's all sorts of plugins that you can use. And by the way, we're going to be covering a lot of them in this course. And the reason that this course is so large is because there's so many plugins and each one has such a large community. So that's why we're covering plugins, and most likely every other WordPress course covers plugins as well. Okay, so now that we know what plugins actually are, they're add-ons for your WordPress that help you do certain things, why don't we learn how to use them? So if you go to your sidebar over here, under plugins, you can see there's a lot of different things. So you have your installed plugins where you can view all of your currently installed plugins. On top of that, just like themes or media, you can do all sorts of bulk actions. So you can tick them, you can delete or deactivate. And there's one very important part about plugins, and that's activation. So I'm going to cover that in just a minute, but you can see here that we already have 2 plugins installed, and these are installed by default, so there's no really need to worry about them. But what they are, this one is an anti-spam, which we're going to be using later in the course, and this is just something that comes default with WordPress. We're not going to be using this. But you can see that this prints a line here. It says, hello Dolly, but we don't see any line. And why is that? The plugin's clearly installed, so what's the problem? And the reason is it's not activated. So there are 2 stages to actually fully installing and using a WordPress plugin. There's installing it and then activating it. So installing it is obviously downloading it from your website or getting it from the WordPress repository and then getting it onto your WordPress copy. But then there's the second part, which is activating. So think of this as turning on a computer. So let's say you just brought a brand new laptop and you're like, woohoo, I got a brand new laptop. But what do you do to actually get it to start working? Well, you're going to need to turn it on. So the power button on your laptop is kind of like activation. What it does is it enables the processes of the plugin to actually start working so you can use it. So it's actually quite a convenient feature. If you ever want to test some plugins, if they're not working, you can always deactivate them and then activate them later instead of, deleting them fully. So it's a great feature, but we're going to be doing this a lot throughout the course. Okay, so why don't we get into actually installing plugins? So what you're going to do is go to the sidebar here. Under plugins, you're going to click add new, and it will bring you to this page. So this is known as the WordPress plugin repository. So the WordPress plugin repository is just a giant list and a giant, collection of plugins that WordPress hosts, and you can download simply without having to upload your own plugins. So yeah, let me walk into this. So there are 2 types of ways to install plugins. One is from the WordPress repository here. So this is what it's called. And, you can see there are some default ones, there's some, recommended, and then there's a search plugin up here. So when I covered themes in the previous section, I said, you could search themes, you could upload them custom, and this is the exact same thing with plugins. So one of my favorite themes is obviously going to be Site Origin Page Builder, which is what we're going to be using in this course and what I'm going to install in just a few seconds. So we're going to search Page Builder. Go ahead and search that. We're going to wait for that to load, and you can see we have page builders here. And by the way, we are going to be using all three of these in our course. But why don't we actually get into the main part? So this is the page builder we're going to be using in this section, which is Site Origin Page Builder. You can see the number of installs, its rating, its last update, and if it's compatible or not. So the compatibility usually isn't an issue. If you see that it's not compatible, don't let that turn you away, because most likely the plugin will be compatible. So why don't we go ahead and install this plugin? So the way to do that is we go and click Install Now. I'm going to wait for that to install. It may take a while depending on how much server space you have. And then there we go, it's installed. And then remember, the second step is to activate it. So we're going to go ahead and click Activate. I'm going to wait for that to activate. And then there we go. It has been activated, and Site Origin Page Builder is now running on our server, on our website. So I'm going to be using it in the future, but why don't we go ahead and install the two other plugins that we need, which are Child Themify and Contact Form Builder. So we are going to search Child Themify. I'll explain what this plugin does in the future. Just search that. And it's this one right here, Child Themify. You're going to click Install. And see here it says untested with your version of WordPress. Remember, don't mind that. It doesn't really affect unless there's a really big update. Maybe there will be some compatibility issues. And if there is, you can always just go ahead and delete it. So we're going to go and click Activate. And then there we go. So why don't we install the final one, which is the Contact Forms Builder. So we're going to search Contact Form, and it's by WP Forms. So we're going to search for that keyword right here, Contact Form by WP Forms. We're going to click Install Now. I'm going to wait for that to install, and then activate it. So hopefully by now you have some experience with installing and activating plugins, and some of the plugins may take you to, some sort of dashboard where it gives you a quick introduction to the plugin, but we're going to be using it in this course, so you don't really need to look at this. But there we go. So now if we go back to installed plugins, we can see all of our plugins that have been installed. But before we move on, I want to delete the plugins we don't use, and you should probably do that too. Plugins you don't use may cause conflictions with other plugins. So if this doesn't make sense to you, think of smashing two gears or two machines together. It will not work because they'll grind in different directions and do all sorts of weird things. And this is kind of what happens with plugins. Some of their code may conflict and cause problems. So you want to try and have as little plugins as possible. So we're going to go ahead and delete those. So all you have to do is click delete. Actually, before I move on, we're going to use the bulk actions feature. So I'm going to tick both of them. And then I'm going to under bulk actions select delete and click apply. And click OK. And there. So now our plugins are deleted. All right, there we go. Very simple. And now hopefully you know all sorts about, plugins and how to install them. One quick thing before we go is I want to talk about uploading plugins. So there may be some plugins, for example, if they're very small or not developed by a large company, that are not on the WordPress repository. Most likely it will be hosted on that person or that small business's website, and you can download and upload it. So it will most likely come in a .zip format. We're going to be uploading custom plugins later in the course, but I just want to show you for now. So it may come in a .zip format. And what you're going to do is click here in Add Plugin under Upload Plugin, and then you can install by uploading it here. So when you click here to choose file, you are going to select that .zip that you downloaded, and it will install the plugin in the exact same way. All right, that's it for plugins, so let's move on.